Good evening. I'm Morrie Zaitlin, volunteer co-host of Shock Cable's Nelson Nightline live phone-in talk show. Tonight's regularly scheduled Nelson Nightline about the controversy over City Council's plan to call for tenders for the operation of the Tourist Info Centre has been postponed due to Council's vote Monday night to table its decision until the fall of this year. Throughout April, my volunteer co-host, Marianne Bond, and myself are both busy preparing for our own new exciting business ventures. Nelson Nightline will be back on its regular bi-weekly schedule in May. In the meantime, we ask our viewers to write to Nelson Nightline with ideas for new shows. We also are looking for volunteers to help us make the show the best possible local public affairs medium in Nelson. Please write to Nelson Nightline, care of 812 Carbonate Street, Nelson, BC, V1L 4R1. In its place tonight, we'll be showing a show on tourism that we ran recently. We hope to see you in May, and thank you very much. Order filling in. Marianne will be back with us May 27th. Non-resident visitors come to Nelson area to camp, hunt, fish, participate in some of the adventure tourism activities, and just soak up some of the atmosphere in the heritage city and surrounds. They leave behind millions of dollars in the local economy, while many residents want to see continued tourism and recreation development and encourage investment in these activities, claiming this clean industry can help build regional economy. The other local residents say they would prefer a no-growth policy, leaving the pristine wilderness to those who now reside here. Tonight, Mike Ovenell and myself will examine some of the impacts of tourism on the local economy. Our special guests tonight are Jim Swift, manager of the Nelson and District Chamber of Commerce, and longtime Nelson area resident Pauline Hanbury. We're going to ask them their opinions on the topics as well as take your calls. The phone lines are now open. The phone number is 354-4200. But before we start, I'd like to introduce Pauline, Jim Swift, and my co-host. Good evening, Pauline. Jim. Good evening, Mike.
Good evening, Morrie.
I guess we'll start tonight with you, Mike. You're our new co-host for the evening. Why don't you kick off the show a little bit?
Okay. Maybe what we should do is to have a look at maybe the brief history of tourism in British Columbia specifically. It was about 20 years ago that the provincial government started taking seriously the business of promoting tourism. They developed a program called the Matching Grants Program and divided British Columbia into, I think at that time, 9 regions. The amount of money was considerable. It was about $250,000. And the money was to be matched with private sector money to advertise and promote British Columbia so that visitors would come and leave their money here. The program was later changed into the Contributing Grant Program, and again later changed into something called, I think, Partners in Tourism. The amount of money that's spent now is many times more, 10 times more than what was originally spent. And at the provincial level, the provincial government has been committed to the growth of tourism as a policy, one of their policies. In the last 20 years, tourism has grown from the 3rd place in the economy to 2nd place next to logging, next to forestry. On the national level, the feds have spent a lot of money promoting Canada, whereas we have been promoting British Columbia. The feds have been promoting Canada, and specifically Western Canada. They do this through, they used to do it, I think it's probably the same department now, Tourism Canada, and primarily through one of their major programs is something called a Visit Canada program, where major editors are invited to Canada and they're given a per diem. It's actually about $1,000 a day to come and write about Canada and publish it in the major magazines. So at the national level that's being done, at the provincial level that's being done. At the regional level we have an organization called the Kootenay Country Tourist Association. It's the West Kootenay sector of what used to be called the Rocky Mountain I think it was called, yeah, it was the Rocky Mountain thing. It's been divided into two parts now. That's at the regional level. So we have the government, the federal government level, the provincial government level. We have a regional level of government. We then have a Chamber of Commerce it's one of its mandates, I understand, Jim, is to foster the growth of tourism. And underneath that, we have another section called BIA, which is the Business Improvement Area, whose target is to foster trade within a very specific area of Nelson. So we've got these 5 levels of organizations, of bureaucracy that are looking at promoting tourism. So that's the background. Each one of these associations, to some extent, is fed from the public purse. Our tax dollars go to pay for the feds. They go to pay for the provincial government. Half of our tax dollars go toward paying the Kootenai Country Tourist Association. Our municipal tax dollars go to paying the Chamber of Commerce, and the businessmen's profits go towards the BIA. So there's a huge amount of money invested in tourism. I have pretty undefined views on tourism. Sometimes I think that it is great, sometimes I think it isn't. And what I'd be interested to know is, what do you think? Do you think that tourism can be promoted, asking you, after this long preamble speech, asking you, do you think that we can, with impunity, develop tourism without affecting the destination? Will we change what we have by being successful as tourism promoters? Jim.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. I was wondering when I was going to get a word in there after your long preamble, but now that I've had an opportunity to talk, I guess what we've got to define is what everybody considers to be disturbing their own image of what they see Nelson area to be. That's a very personal question. Everybody has their own definition. I think what you've got to look at, though, is you've got to look at the economic impacts of tourism. The bottom line here is that tourism generates dollars. Dollars pay payroll. Payroll creates taxes, and again, taxes fund our social system, of which we're all very attached and committed to in this province. That's sort of the bottom line overview of it. But I guess beyond that, there are some very personal questions that everybody has to address. I think what we've got to look at here in the Kootenays is that our industries as we know them today, particularly mining and the forest industry, are not, and nor will they be, the same several years from now as they are today. So in terms of growth, we're not necessarily looking at growth in the tourism industry per se, but we're looking at replacing what we're losing as a result of the shrinkage of our other industries. So I think we have to take a pretty aggressive stance in order to maintain our economy the way it is, and tourism is probably one of the most easily attainable and cleanest and pleasant ways to address that maintenance in our area here in the Kootenays.
How would you speak to that, Pauline?
I want to ask that question again.
Okay, how would you speak to that? Do you think that we should be promoting tourism? Are you concerned?
Yes, of course I'm concerned. I don't think that you can put every person that goes into any area, whether it be a city or a wilderness, makes a difference. And unfortunately, humans don't necessarily make the best of differences. We do not tread softly on this planet, anywhere that we go, any of us. And I think that you have to look at tourism very carefully, as a job-making or a development economic thing. You have to look at it just as in-depth as you might look at a pulp mill, a chip truck, a clear cut, a mill being put in, a destination resort, which is tourism, of course, all of them. You know, it isn't any different. I don't consider it particularly any cleaner than any other industry. It is an industry. We have made it into an industry. We look at it as an industry. We speak of it as an industry.
How do you see it changing your particular environment?
Well, more people, more trouble. I think it does create low-paying jobs. And I think it does make money for a few people. And it usually creates seasonal jobs, which in its turn, and you talk about taxes paying for all the things that we like, but on the other hand, tourism, particularly in this area, creates seasonal jobs, and seasonal jobs mean that the rest of the year you're on UIC. So, you know, I mean, these things kind of don't necessarily, they sort of,
Pauline, what the promoters will argue with you is that there's a trickle-down effect, that if somebody spends $100 on a hotel room, yes, the chambermaid gets $5 an hour, right? But maybe the designer of the brochure that brought them there was making $40 an hour.
that's you, Mike.
Or maybe...
No, it's true.
Yeah,
there is
or,
a trickle-down effect. I don't deny that. There's a trickle-down effect with most things, with just about everything. But I think that you still have to look at all of the people. There's still a lot of people in any community that don't particularly benefit from that trickle-down effect, but do have to have their lifestyles affected by tourism, whether it's on the roads or this lake full of people in the summer, or, you know, the fish all gone, or whatever it is. I'm not against tourism. I'm more against how you promote it and how much money you spend on promoting it. And every area is unique. And I think we discussed this today, that tourism is apt to, people go, tourism, we have to have this kind of resort there and that. You know, you're apt to copycat. And that's what you really have to look at. What is unique to your area? What Trail or Castlegar or the Okanagan might work there shouldn't be what Nelson should have.
Right.
And you see, my prejudice goes towards what we need in this town and in this area to make jobs is to go back to having the post-secondary education and the university. So I have that built-in prejudice, because I would rather see that than hotly promoting tourism.
Let me jump in there and hammer you on that. You want to say something, but hang on a second. Pauline, your post-secondary education, you actually work with the Kootenai Summer School of the Arts, and you're on the board of the Kootenai School of Arts. And these organizations are funded by not only the money that students pay, but they're funded by the province and by the city. Now, these funds come from money that probably in part is generated by tourism. How do you square that? Your survival depends on the revenue generated by either logging, tourism, mining, or whatever it is to produce those taxes.
Yeah, well, actually, neither one of those two are exactly funded by those levels of government to any degree right now. But for KSA to survive, it would have to be. For a university to survive, it would need to be. I don't have the answers.
Okay.
I'm
Jim.
just saying that, you have to really look at these things. It's not a magic thing. Tourism isn't magic.
You want to get in there? I'm in full
quick
flight
fix.
after Jim.
Just want to get our phone number in there again. We're getting a cue from our floor manager. Phone number to call if you have any questions so far is 354-4200. Okay, go back.
Jim,
Michael, you're hot.
You were in the travel business. You ran a travel agency in Calgary. You were responsible for shipping people by the plane load into other countries, other destinations, and bringing them here and selling them tickets. You must have been to destinations 20, 30 years ago. You're not that old, but say 20 years ago.
I'm only a kid.
20 years ago.
Right.
And you've gone back last year and you've wondered, what the hell happened?
Well, I had the opportunity when I was young to grow up in Calgary. And when I grew up in Calgary, Banff was my sort of backyard on weekends, and I spent a lot of time there, to the point where when I left Calgary, Banff wasn't the same comfortable town that I felt comfortable in. So as a result, we looked for different places to go. We've had an opportunity, as most major destinations have, to learn from things that happened in the Banffs of the world. We won't be another Banff. There won't be many other places in the world that'll be another Banff. We have a unique opportunity here in our area because basically we don't have a very developed and sophisticated tourism industry. That's not to say that we can't or we won't. All I'm saying here is that we have an opportunity now, because we don't have that infrastructure developed, to proceed on a basis that gives us the opportunity to really look at what's there and identify what we think are key components of what we would like to see in the tourism industry, and satisfy a lot of concerns about what we see as reasonable tourism in our area. I think one of the things to keep in mind too is that we can't build a Great Wall of China around Nelson in our area. Whether we like it or not, people are coming here. The word is out. It's too late. You can't stop them at the border. So what we've got to do now is that, given that the word is out about Nelson, and we're certainly seeing that at the Chamber of Commerce office in terms of the people who drop in asking for information in our area, the word is definitely out. What we have to do now is make sure that when they come here, that the people enjoy what is here, and that we don't oversell what we have here, and we make sure that people have a full understanding of what they may expect in terms of the total tourism experience.
Okay, Jim, you say the word is out. Now, the Regional Tourist Association has probably spent $500,000 this year putting that word out. Mm-hmm. Half of that has come from us as taxpayers to put that word out, to actually promote tourism, to measure the results by the number of people that come in and the number of dollars that are dropped. Are you convinced that we are spending the money on external promotion? Are we spending it in the right place? Should we be now promoting tourism, promoting an inflow of people into this area without really having resolved whether we as a community want that to happen? I earn my living in the tourism business. I'm just asking these questions. I don't have the answers like Pauline.
Well, I just
worry about them.
Yeah, I think you've got to realize that the money spent on tourism promotion through the various agencies, and probably the most identifiable one that we see around here is the Kootenai Countries Tourist Association, and of which we have an excellent manager and certainly a well-organized group. The people, when they spend the money around here, are very sophisticated about how they spend it. We're obviously not directing our tourism marketing to the people, for example, that might enjoy a Banff experience. Firstly, because we don't have a 4-star hotel here. We don't have a restaurant that offers all the amenities that they want. We can't offer suitable bus accommodation. We don't have the type of airport that allows us to land here 24 hours a day in all weather conditions. So therefore, we're marketing to a people that will come here given the set of conditions that we have to offer in terms of tourism. The person who would be an upscale tourist, the person who might want to go to Banff or who might want to go to Whistler, simply would not come here, even if we were directing our marketing to these people, because we simply don't have the facilities and the amenities to offer them in terms of the total travel experience. So what we've been able to do, and what the tourist industry is doing, is directing its marketing in a very pointed way to the group of people that would be most suited to come to our area and share our experience. I have every confidence that that marketing is being targeted that way, and based on the people that are in the business of marketing that tourism and directing and identifying those groups from the sophisticated data that is available, I have every doubt that they're making the right decisions. My concern is not are they spending enough money. My concern is that because it's an extremely competitive world out there in terms of tourism marketing, are we spending enough in terms of keeping our share of the market? I'm concerned because in the latest provincial budget, we've seen a reduction in tourism spending marketing, as we have seen in a number of areas. The effects of that spending won't be felt for the years to come. But in the years to come, when we see it more and more states like Washington State, Alberta for instance, increasing their tourism marketing when the economies get tough, we're going to be a little bit behind in that area. So we're going to have to compete even harder for those tourist dollars.
Pauline, do you think, I've had this idea that maybe if we never did a thing, that if we said nothing, if we developed nothing, if we stayed as retarded as we are in development, right, that we wouldn't in fact come round the back of the circle and become extremely attractive just because of that, because we do not have the infrastructure. We would be one of the places that is not geared for tourism and therefore more desirable.
I agree with you 100%. That's exactly what I think.
Okay, now, in addition to that, and what I'm trying to do is to just put opposing views to you without stating where I'm coming from. But if we did that, you talked about marketing, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
Now, marketing and advertising seem to be mixed up in the minds of a lot of people. We have spent a lot of money on advertising, but marketing is anything, as I understand it, that facilitates a transaction. It's to make a transaction easy, a tourism transaction easy. Now, if what we were to do is to spend the money, the $500,000, on looking after people when they're here, would that maybe not more effective than going the traditional demand marketing route, or what do they call it, the market-driven route of trying to supply people with what they want? Wouldn't it be better to go the other way?
Well, I think that that may be an argument that you may want to make if you're in some third world country. We are competing, certainly in a very sophisticated Western market-driven atmosphere. And you're debating a point that really none of us can really prove at this point, but the market-driven system is the one that seems to be working in Western civilizations.
Okay.
And here we are.
All right. What I mean, there's two systems of marketing. There's market-driven, and market-driven marketing is where you say, look, we got something, how do we change it to make it work? How do we change it to make people want it? Right? That's market-driven. You create a need and you fill that need by fiddling with your end product. Product-driven marketing, on the other hand, is you have a product, it can be a nut or a bolt or a destination, and you say, this is what we got. We're not going to change a bit of it. What we're going to do is to try and find people that want exactly what we've got. That's product-driven marketing. And it's out of style, and it's, it drove a lot of companies into bankruptcy after the Industrial Revolution, that kind of thinking. But I'm wondering whether we shouldn't be thinking about coming back to that, Jim. Whether we shouldn't let our product sell itself, and whether we shouldn't service those people, service the hell out of them once they get here.
Meaning
as
that
part of the marketing.
$500,000 put into upgrading the ski hill, upgrading the facilities in town and things like that? Is that
Fixing the
Sure.
waterfront.
Or
fixing up
even
the water?
Maybe run another ferry so we don't have to suffer the pain of that
rather
in
than
the
spending the
summer.
money on the ad?
I'm just putting that out. I'm hoping somebody
Well,
out there
well,
is
what
going to get
Our
all
people,
hot
you
and
say we're
phone in.
not the sophisticated Banff and Whistler types that come to Nelson. Who do you see, or who do the stats say our tourists are? Their age group, the sex, where they come from? Can you give us a brief
Well,
understanding on that?
without getting into a demographic
Yeah.
breakdown, a statistical revelation here, it's a fact of life that nearly all of our tourists who come here by vehicle. Basically, they're coming here and they stay rarely for more than a day, simply because we don't have the facilities to keep them here for more than a day, and they're usually, most of them are camping. So therefore, what you've got to look at here is that in our area, all we have is essentially 200 hotel rooms between, say, Nelson and the North Shore. The last motel that was built in Nelson, I understand, was about 10 years ago, and that was the North Shore Inn. So we don't have a lot of hotel facilities to keep people. So that means that we're after usually families, younger families on limited incomes, and our market for those families in the U.S. is certainly within a day's drive of Nelson.
People from the Pacific Northwest,
People from the
Alberta.
Pacific Northwest, the southern Alberta, and the lower mainland.
But you see, the people you've just described, families, young families, they can travel on weekends and they can travel during the summer. Now, tourism, as I understand it, is made up in three parts. It's people that come from the United States, it's people that come from Canada, and it's people that live here. And roughly, they spend the same amount of money each, roughly a third each. So, what I'm wondering is whether we're concentrating too much on that market that you've just defined, and whether we're not looking at that other two-thirds, the other people who come here in May, in April, in March, when it rains, in October.
But who would those people be, Michael? I mean, I don't
seniors.
want to travel in the winter, in the wet weather, unless I'm going skiing, obviously, which people can come here in the winter.
But that's when the seniors travel in their campers.
So that's a market group.
I mean, they're very visible. They're a very visible group. That's when they don't have to necessarily, they can be my age, right?
Yeah.
But you know, the people who no longer have children in school and
Don't
things
have to
like
follow,
that,
follow the timeline of school.
and possibly are retired. But
I think when you look at what marketing or what advertising, there's two parts to marketing. There's the advertising, the visible part that we all see. Then there's the marketing, the part that is done behind the scenes, so to speak, that isn't visible to Mr. and Mrs. John, to a consumer. The advertising that is done in support of tourism for the Kootenays isn't necessarily advertising the particular amenities that are here in terms of the physical buildings. The advertising that is done is directed more at the scenery, the wilderness, the quality of the tourism experience that's here. And one of the reasons for that is that we don't have the very obvious hotels and facilities here that can be pictured and will be readily identified as attractions. So that's what we're seeing.
Going to take our first call, Michael.
Wow, somebody is
Press the
watching.
button.
Press the button. Hello.
Good evening, you're on Nelson Nightline.
Hi, Michael. It's Jeff Sturgeon, Kootenai Country Tourist Association.
Hello, Jeff. How are you? I figured we'd get you on the line.
Well, I'm enjoying your show. You're doing a great job asking a lot of the good questions.
Thank you, Jeff. Now, what do you say about all this money that you're spending on promoting and advertising and bugging me to death to match your dollars, and dollars that are coming from the pockets of these poor taxpayers who've just had a 7% increase, and you don't consider us partners?
Well, I do consider you partners. In fact, I think the government even considers you partners. It's one of the best forms of marketing the province that they've come up with in a number of years. They've been doing it since 1985. And basically what they've done is they've taken the money that they would be spending in the near-in markets anyway and managed to put it together with private sector to create a supernatural image that creates a larger impression than if both parties were doing it separately. So I think it's an excellent program for the government, plus it's an excellent opportunity for the private sector.
Okay, want to keep you on the line a minute. Okay, I just came back from Crete. I visited there, young man, 40 years ago. And I went back and I was totally shocked by what had happened. And on the way back in the plane, I read Michener's story, I think it was called Paradise Revisited, about what has happened in Hawaii and Fiji. Then, when I got back, I looked at a Qantas production, a BBC production called Diamonds in the Sky, which you've probably seen, which is the story of mass air movement and how cultures have changed. Jeff, are you absolutely convinced that if you are successful, that you won't change this area in a way that is going to really locals?
Well, I think you guys were talking about it a little earlier, and that I think Jim said it very well, actually, in the fact that the tourists are going to come, and they're going to come anyway. And I think what we've got to do as a region is that we've got to understand why the people are coming. And they're coming because of our natural beauty, and they're coming because we aren't Banff or Whistler. We are a unique area in the province. In fact, I think we're probably the last pristine area yet to be developed in the province. And that's why the people that we do get are coming. And I think what we've got to do is we've got to create for them what we want. If we let the tourists come, and they will come, and handle it themselves, then you're going to find high-rise resorts on the waterfront, or McDonald's or whatever, water slides or whatever. I mean, the only reason that they're there is that people have proposed them, and that city councils have allowed them to happen. And the city council is elected by the people living there. If we don't want that kind of tourism, and we know the kind of tourism that we want, then we should be putting it out in a mandate. I mean, Nelson has done a very good job with its heritage buildings. I mean, it's trying to maintain that kind of image of a heritage town, and when new buildings get up, they should be made sure that it's a heritage frontage, and no neon signs, this sort of thing. And I mean, that's how you create the image that you want to project to the tourists. You can't blame the tourists or the developers who want to come in to change this. I mean, it's up to the people that live here to demand that we don't have a high-rise hotel, that we have a hotel that's maybe 3 or 5 stories high that melds back in with the environment. And that it costs more, so that means perhaps you have to come up with some sort of a break for the developer to be able to put that kind of a property online to make it feasible for him.
Okay.
Right, you know, and that to me is my answer.
All right. You said that they're coming anyway. What do you spend? $500,000 this year?
Our budget last year was $524,000. It's been reduced by 20% because of the budget cutbacks.
Right.
But we will, I believe, still be able to do an effective job. And
so half of that came from taxpayers.
well, half of it came from the government, yes, which is taxpayers' money.
Came from the taxpayers. Okay. Now, actually, more than half of it came, because I remember you going to Jim Swift and making a deal with Jim Swift where he paid for half an ad and you paid for the other half an ad. And then I remember Jim Swift going off to City Council and begging $35,000 from them. Right? So Jim...
Sorry, I'm not...
Okay,
you
Jim...
can use the analogy. I think your numbers are incorrect, but go ahead.
Okay, but
I'll
no,
certainly agree that your numbers
what
are
I'm saying
incorrect.
what I'm saying is that you guys are doing a great job putting money together, you know, taking the various packages and matching them. But what you're doing is you're going to the Economic Development Commission that is funded by tax dollars. You're going to the Chamber of Commerce that is supported by tax dollars. You're then going to what you call the private sector, which is the businessmen. And somehow it seems to me that the old taxpayer is not getting as involved in what you're doing, Jeff, as they could do. And that's why I asked Pauline to come. She's shaking her head. I think she wants to say something. I'm monopolizing this conversation, Jeff.
Have to move on to
I
another
can
call,
wait
Michael.
if you want to hear what Pauline has to say.
My boss here says that we've got to move on to another call
Okay.
because I think there's one waiting. Thank you very much for calling.
No problem. Good talking to you.
Thanks. Bye.
You wanted to say something, Pauline?
Well, I mean, it all sounds very smooth, doesn't it? These guys are marketers and they have the packaging to do, and it's a game that we play in this world now, and it scares me. You know, it really does, and I don't trust people or the taxpayer or the people to be able to stand up well enough against the powers to be out there, which are the money-hungry people and developers, to be able to stop a high-rise whatever or a water slide, God help us, or you know, or that kind of thing, because I think that you know, we're having incredible protests now over environmental things, and we're not winning at this point, you know. So I mean, you know, Rosemont Park went to the golf course in the end. I mean, we don't always win these things.
I think one of the things you've got to realize, Pauline, is that developers are sophisticated people who want to make a dollar.
Yes.
They're certainly not going to come here if they don't think they can make a dollar. I think what you've got to look at is the fact that, quite frankly, they haven't come to Nelson. And
hey, listen. 20 years ago when I came here, this was a pretty nice, sleepy, laid-back place. About 10 years ago, people started going, boy, there's more people coming here, there's more people moving here, there's more people retiring here, gee, and then there's all the tourism talk. Oh my goodness, could we become like the Okanagan? And everybody went, oh no, of course not. You know, our valleys are too narrow, we have nothing to offer, the roads aren't big enough, we're too far away from everything, you know, the coast is way back there. Nobody thought about Alberta then. And you know, and it was nobody would move here to live here because there weren't any jobs. Well, excuse me, but people are moving here and there aren't jobs, and they seem to be doing quite well, and there are more tourists coming here, and it just isn't true. These things are happening. We are not, you know, we are discovered. We will be run over if we don't watch it. I mean, I just don't. I don't trust you guys. I'm sorry. You're all caught up in your whoa, you know.
What are some of the measures that you would
We're going to have to break for our streeters right now, and we'll continue on this conversation in a couple minutes just to keep the flow going. I'm sorry to break it up. We're going to go to our street interviews. Tonight we have Marianne Bond out on the street because she's not here today, and she went out on Friday and asked people in the street what they thought about tourism in Nelson, whether we should continue it, stop people, discourage them, or continue tourism. We'll go to the street now.
Definitely encourage it. There's no question about that. I think it's going to benefit everybody.
Any kinds of tourism you'd like to see developed more than others?
No, not necessarily. I think we should really start working on the recreational side of it. But yeah, tourism's good.
Oh, I think encourage it.
Yeah. And why?
Well, if people are careful, it's fairly non-destructive, isn't it? So, and it's always pleasant to meet people from other places, other countries. The world keeps shrinking, so we can't hide forever.
Any tourism development that you would like to see as opposed to other kinds?
Yes, the waterfront. I think it's very sad that we have that sort of barrier between us and the water with the industrial park and the airport. So perhaps they could go on the other side and make a footpath or strip park or something.
Oh, well, we're sort of tourists ourselves because we live in Victoria, but we have a summer place up here. So I think you should be encouraging tourism, yeah, very much.
And what kind of tourism? Could you give us some examples of the kind of tourism you'd like to see Nelson develop?
Well, older people who are like us and enjoy recreation vehicles, and not too much noisy stuff like Disneyland things, because I think that ruins the community. It doesn't enhance it at all. But I'd like to see more accommodation for visitors closer to Nelson.
Encourage it. It's good. It's good for the city.
Any kind of specific
good for business.
Tourism development you'd like to see?
Good accommodation.
Anything else?
Oh, not particularly. Good accommodation mainly.
Thank you.
I think it's good for tourists to come through Nelson because, I mean, it's a small city and they need to expand. And when tourists come through, they see how nice it looks and they might want to just move in.
What kind of tourism development would you like to see Nelson continue to develop?
I don't know. I think I don't like tourists that come in and leave in a hurry, in a rush. I just like them to be mellow people.
Like us.
Yeah, like us.
Do you have any comments?
Well, I'm just here visiting from Victoria.
Oh, so you're a tourist yourself.
I lived here for 12 years.
Okay. And have you noticed the increase in tourism within our city?
Yes, I have. I've also noticed that Victoria is a lot like Nelson.
Yes, it is.
The amount of tourism there is overwhelming. So I think because Nelson is such a... I lived here for 12 years. It's a beautiful little community. If you get too much tourism happening, then you lose it.
If we were to develop in tourism, can you give any suggestions in terms of, I mean, there is some quality tourism development that can happen while enhancing, the quality of life here. Do you have any suggestions on what?
More recreational.
Okay, great, thank you. Do you have any comments?
Yeah, I just got one thing. I'm against tourism from the United States. I think people from the United States should stay there.
Actually, it's probably better if it stays the same.
And why do you feel that way? There are certain development, ways to develop that aren't really going to impact, maybe on a negative way, via tourism and or people and cars and whatnot. Are there any areas that you can see we can develop in?
Log building is the business I'm in. I build playgrounds for children, and we need to get a few more playgrounds in the area,
recreational
schools and stuff.
Well, I think it should be encouraged, and I think the only way of encouraging is by keeping the valley green out here. If anybody wants to drive between Nakusp and Revelstoke, they'll see what our valley will look like in about 10 years. And long sight of the whole thing is that 10 years from now, that's what's going to bring tourists, nothing else.
So keep our area green?
Yeah.
Is that your message?
The skyline, log in behind, like has been in past practices, but keep the skyline. green.
Okay.
I think we should do more for bike trails and pedestrian walkways along the waterfront. And I thought by the Capitol Theater, you know where that parking space is? Should make a nice little plaza there for, you know, people to just
So
relax.
recreation and people areas.
Right.
Yeah.
Certainly encouraged. We need the tourists.
And what kind of tourism development would you like to see?
Well, anything that interests the people, that'll bring them in. I'd like to see it develop more down along the lakefront there where they could maybe do something, enjoy something.
Well, actually, I'm not from Nelson.
Oh, so you're a tourist, are you?
Not really. I'm
No?
from Riondell.
Okay, well, you're close enough. We'll call you a Nelson resident.
Well, I'd like to see tourism encouraged. I think it brings money into the economy, and I think there's a lot to see around Nelson here. I think it's an extremely interesting place to come to.
I'm a tourist. Are you? Great. Where are you from?
Yellowknife.
And what brings you to our city?
Family. We have family living here, so every time we get a chance, we come here. But eventually, we'd like to move here because it's such a beautiful place.
What kind of tourism development would you like to see for the city, seeing as how you're going to be a future resident?
More outdoor cafes.
Definitely encouraging it. The more people that see it, the better off, you know, we are.
And what kind of tourism development would you like to see?
I don't know. I don't really know whether we need to develop or just advertise what we've got.
And encourage people to come and visit.
Here and visit.
Right.
Maybe another hotel, but other than that, no.
Okay.
Wilderness preservation.
Do you have any comments?
Yeah, I think tourism is good.
You know, increase, but I'm not going to say, well, I just hope it does.
Any specific kinds of tourism development that you would like to see?
Yeah, I don't know, people, I don't know, sports.
Sports?
Yeah.
Recreation?
Yeah,
Outdoor
recreation facilities, you know, so we can have people come here and play in ball tournaments and stuff like that.
Great, that's excellent. Would you discourage it or have
Well, I
it remain
always
the
like to
same?
encourage tourism.
Is there any specific kinds of tourism development you'd like to see?
No, nothing special. You see, I like to see maybe marina here in town, waterfront development, something like that.
Okay.
That's about all.
Okay, thank you very much.
My pleasure. So have a good.
A typical, come and be a Bruce, come on, be an experiment. We're on film.
Oh, why? Why?
You are a typical tourist.
I am, yeah.
And we are the citizenry, the locals, that we want tourists.
Look, I can fix that up. Just give me a couple of days.
Good evening again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Nelson Nightline. Our subject tonight is tourism. Should we encourage it or discourage it? Our guests tonight are Jim Swift with the Nelson and District Chamber of Commerce, Pauline Hanbury, a local resident, longtime resident, and my co-host tonight is Mike Ovenell. Sorry, Michael, replacing Marianne Bond, my regular co-host. I think I've fallen asleep watching the commercial for a second here. Pauline, just to start off here, in watching the people, the men on the street interviews, somebody said, the more tourism, the better off. You started shaking your head. Why?
Yes, because that showed me that, you know, you say it, it's just so easy to say, it sounds good, it sounds clean, it's not like saying, let's have a pulp mill, you know, and people haven't thought it through. People just haven't thought it through, or they haven't experienced, hey, I go back to England every year now to see my dear old mum, and I can tell you the place is totally wrecked.
Do you want to?
You know, because of tourists.
Yeah. Okay, if tourism isn't the answer, pulp and paper industry, forest industry, is that the answer?
No,
Mining industry?
Single thing should be the answer.
So
you know,
you're saying
no single thing.
A combination. Okay, we're going to get to a phone call right now. Michael, you want to get the lines there?
Another person watching.
Yeah.
This one here.
Yeah.
Hello there.
Hello there.
Yes, I just recently moved to this Queen City of the Kootenays, and I was wondering, why did you guys build a streetcar where you did? I find it, if we're trying to bring tourists into Nelson, I think it should be maybe in a better location, not through a mall parking lot and an open field.
Well, let Jim answer that if you can.
Well, I just recently moved to Nelson too, and so I don't really feel that I'm as necessarily qualified to answer the question, but would suggest that I look at the streetcar concept and think that is going to be a positive revenue generator for Nelson, something that reflects the heritage of what we had in the past. And I have to put my faith in the people who designed the concept and thought that given the amount of input that went into that, I have to trust that in their best judgment, they thought that that was the best place for it. And I'm sure if you look at putting a streetcar where it is and in relation to probably where it really did run, the problems created in putting it where it probably did run would have been enormous compared to what it is. And I think what you've got to look upon on it is that it's a tourist attraction, and it's not servicing the real transportation needs of Nelson as much as it is recreating a part of what we had here in the past.
I also...
Yeah, that's not there.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yep, you're off the line.
well,
If you're still listening, I also understand that this phase 1 is along the waterfront, and if it's a successful operation, there's even talk about running it right downtown Main Street as phase 2 or phase 3. You may know about that, eh, Mike?
Yeah. Listen, I have to apologize for monopolizing the first part. I get carried away on this thing.
Okay.
Well, I think one of the things we've got to sort of put in perspective here in terms of tourism funding and taking off a little bit about what Jeff Courtnall, I'm still thinking of Vancouver next year. Jeff Sturgeon talked about was that the Chamber of Commerce gets funding to operate a travel info center from the City of Nelson. We do not get money to advertise from the City of Nelson in publications. We co-opt a publication along with the Kootenai Country Tourist Association, and the money to co-opt that publication was raised from individual private merchants within the City of Nelson to make that an added plus. Our money that we receive from the City of Nelson is for the running of the Travel Info Center, which is not the prime function of the Chamber of Commerce, but one that we think we do particularly well, and we have a very dedicated staff that do a great job of. We're handling the people that are coming here anyway, and what we think we're doing is doing an excellent job of paraphrasing to them what we have here and stating what we have here in a way that doesn't sell it beyond its needs or beyond its ability to service the tourist needs. And
okay.
Excuse me, there's another phone call, Michael.
Oh,
we have 3 listeners.
3 listeners, yeah.
Good evening, you're on the air.
Yes, one further thing to add, I was going to say about the streetcar there.
There it is.
I was thinking there's a good possibility that I think a nice location for that would be the old Burlington Northern tracks in Upper Fairview and Upper Uphill. It's a nice location, I think, for it. There's a lot of nice scenery. You get from the top of that gravel pit there, you get a nice view of all of Fairview and Lake. It's really beautiful up there. There's a lot of mountain bikers go along that trail, and I think it'd probably be a real nice, easy way to build a railroad track up there.
I think an excellent suggestion, and possibly somebody like Burlington Northern could be talked into running a sort of a dayliner along there that might run from the end of where it stopped at Kootenai Lake, even going down to, say, Selmo, and offering 1-hour trips, much the same way there's a small rail service just south of the line. I believe in the Medellin area down there, they run a little train along that, and they don't have as many people as we do here. And I think it's certainly a nice little tourist attraction.
Yeah, I walk along that section quite regularly, and it would require a lot of upgrading.
Yeah.
All the ties are rotten, and it's just about ready to be pulled out. It's a good idea.
A couple of things related to tourism in the City of Nelson that I don't know if you have the answer, but you might get people walking in the door asking you the question too.
Sure.
No gas stations are open after midnight. How can we justify that we're even promoting to tourism and marketing to tourism and super hosting to tourism when the gas stations are closed? Somebody that may be driving through town out of gas and there's no gas stations open.
Well, you're right. There are no gas stations that are open publicly. I believe there is provision, though, for emergency service for people who do need gas within the City of Nelson. But the gas station operators, the service station operators here set their hours and their staffing as a reflection of demand. And I have to suggest that as businessmen, in their best opinion, if they feel that this is the demand, then in fact, that's what it is.
Although also part of it was due to the fact that 7-Eleven was forced to close at midnight because of vandalism from our local youth.
Well, that's beyond the scope of a tourism question, but certainly that is a good observation. But I have to suggest that probably during the summer months, some service station operator will probably, in their best wisdom, as a result of the increased travel and tourism, open during 24 hours. But certainly in the off-season, you're right, we're not open 24 hours.
The numbers are up, presumably, in tourism right now compared to the last couple of years?
The numbers continue to go up every year in tourism. Unfortunately, we had the month of April was down slightly, and we considered that down probably because the ski season was bad all over the Pacific Northwest. and as a result, it reflected in our numbers
Get
here.
back to some more stats in
You
a couple
bet.
of seconds after this next call. Michael, if you can handle that. Good evening. We're on Nelson Nightline.
Yeah, I just, it's a good, it's nice to put a little input in it. There's a few points being around Nelson for the last about 18 years. We're living out of Balfour, but naturally Nelson's our center. I notice there's no buses on Sundays or holidays, eh? And for people that fly in or visiting, it kind of leaves them at loose ends. And I'd like to see Baker Street closed off. That short block there between was it Stanley and Ward. Put a fountain in there or something like that. Because the traffic kind of, it's so heavy downtown now, it's hard really to enjoy the area that much. It's quite noisy. If that were possible, it would make it more village-like, eh? Which is what attracted us to Nelson originally. And then we could have maybe, like that lady said on your interview, the street interview, more sidewalk cafes of some sort. Because that's what we enjoy. You know, it's a healthy atmosphere around here. The air and the quality of life is pretty good so far.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Kimberley has streets closed off for it seems to work well.
Other communities have tried that as well. The idea of closing streets off certainly has some merit. There's a certain chemistry, though, that has got to come into play in a community in closing a street off. In some of the largest cities who have chosen to close streets off, it has not proven to be successful. You've seen the death of what was perceived to be as a viable, vibrant retail shopping area come to an end as a result of that.
Granville Street.
Granville Street, certainly the 8th Avenue Mall in Calgary and Spark Street in Ottawa. Certainly we're not of that size, but I think we can learn something from that. And I certainly think we owe it to our merchants in the downtown area and for the investment they've placed in their heritage buildings to give them every opportunity to market their facilities by having traffic maintained there and done so in a way that reflects the quality of the downtown we've got.
Pauline.
Well, we only have one street and a mall, really, and I would certainly still shop on the street, much more likely if there were no vehicles there, with maybe a streetcar delivering you, and to a parking lot somewhere way off. But I think that we need to just go very carefully and slowly on this whole tourist thing, and let the people not try and flog ourselves to the world, but let those who choose to come, and let those who don't find anything here for themselves move on to other places. And we may be the only people that maybe could have enough sense to even do that, and then it would be okay. Tourism would be okay. And I think people, yes, we do need some more accommodation, and we probably need some more campsites, certainly another one closer to the city. And there are some things that, people say you can't get a decent cup of coffee on a Sunday. And there's little things like that. But that's not hard to deal with. They're just little things. We do need, I think, to keep emphasizing our arts and culture aspect, as well as our natural beauty. And so many people move here because of that. And I know that there's a lot of taxpayers out there that think that it's a lot of hokum pokum and worth nothing, and it's costing them a fortune, and it's nonsense, because it's not. It's costing me a fortune to fix their potholes,
Just hang on a second. We have another call, I'm told. Good evening. You're on Nelson Nightline.
Good evening. I just wanted to make a comment. I wonder if it would be possible for the city or the chamber or the tourist association to maybe get businesses together to create vacation packages for tourists, such as golf packages or fishing charter packages, where a bed and breakfast business and a golf course could get together and work out some kind of a package for a tourist to come to our town. In that way, it doesn't only have to be recreation, it can be something in regards to our arts and culture as well, where they have walking tours or bus tours, whatever, throughout the city, so that people can get to see the city as a whole rather than just stop through the city for a couple hours before moving on.
Can I answer that one?
Thank you. Michael's going to answer your question here.
Do you want to stay on the line?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, two things. Jeff Sturgeon, you heard from him earlier, is one of the ace marketers in golf packaging. He has put together a golf packaging program and a ski packaging program that is second to none, and has the ski packages filled many of the local hotels this year, primarily from northern Washington. Now, there is a company called Lake City Tours that's run by a woman called Lori Langford, who puts together excellent packages and advertises them and promotes them, and is probably just a little bit ahead of her time. So I think that those two things are being done, but I agree with you that there's a lot of space.
Yeah, maybe we could get the city or a tourist association involved in that to help promote that sort of thing within this area. Not just Nelson, but maybe the whole Kootenai area would benefit from that.
I think that some of Jeff Sturgeon's money should go to Lori Langford. That's what I think.
Thank you. We're just going to have to take another call soon, so you can listen on the air, okay?
Thank you.
We only have one phone line, so we have to keep it open all the time.
Okay.
I think one of the points that was made earlier by Pauline was the arts and the theater, and certainly the cultural base that we have in Nelson has been a very strong contributor to our tourism base. People come from here from many different areas and hear about what we have to offer in terms of our strong cultural ties. And that in itself has contributed greatly to the very positive aspects of tourism that we see here.
That's a very good point.
And one of the things that we've got that we can look upon in terms of a positive tourism booster is the Art Walk program that is coming up, and that has been here for several years. And a very strong worker in that is Andy Grace. And so we've got some real things we can be proud of.
You know, just hold on, another call there. Good evening, you're on Nelson Nightline.
How's it going tonight?
We're doing okay.
17 calls.
Yeah, that's not too bad. I was wondering, what do you think of a possibility of moving the recycling, the waste, the garbage dump down by the lakeside? I think it's a bad spot to take a garbage dump. People come into town and they see that. I think you could use that property for more convenient uses, such as tourism, as an arena or some sort. What do you think about that?
I think it's a great spot for a floating driving range.
Yeah, do you think we can move the garbage dump up maybe out towards some a little bit more?
I think we can do anything we want as long as we have the political will and the backing of the people of Nelson.
God, that's a political
Thank you very much.
That is a political answer.
Well, we had somebody on a couple of shows ago talking about moving the dump, and the problem is finding a location for it. Unrealistic.
Can I monopolize a bit more?
You only have about 30 seconds to monopolize.
And that's it?
If you watch the call, the board there,
okay.
Got a minute to go.
You know, what I'm thinking is that you're right, you're both right, that what we should be looking at is not traditional tourism only. We should be looking at maybe leisure in learning, maybe tie in the Kootenai School of Arts to package promotion. Maybe we should be looking at what the Poconos have done, put in wonderful, sexy, go quicker, he said, put in these wonderful honeymoon packages, this kind of thing. So this is what we should do.
Well, as I said earlier, we have some unique opportunities to develop here in the Kootenays, and I think the start is, we've just started, and we've got something to look forward to.
And perhaps do it either sustainably.
I think we need a whole think tank on this.
Good. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this show will be rebroadcast Friday, May 15th at 11 a.m., Sunday, May 17th at 8 p.m. Our next show is May 27th. My co-host, Marianne Bond, will be back, and our show that time will be on forestry again, I understand, according to Marianne. I'd like to thank you for being here at Nelson Nightline. It's been a fun show.